Funny friends, my funny friends, my funny, funky friends now. My funny friends, my funny friends, my funny, funky friends now.
Starring Drew Harrison and Will Abeles.
Hey, and we're back with another My Funny Friends. I am your co-host, Drew Harrison. As always, joined by my lovely, look at him, he's glowing, my lovely co-host, Mr. Will Abeles. Will, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, Drew. I think I'm cursed. Every time we do this podcast, I burn something and my whole house is filled up with smoke.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, it's doing wonders for the skin, you know?
thank you. I think that's
whatever
just,
you're doing.
Yeah, I feel burned. I do feel burned. Just staring into my oven, hoping it goes away.
You turned everything off there, right? Like we're not gonna have like fire alarms going off or anything.
I'm gonna say I'm 85% sure everything's off.
85. Okay, I was expecting a little higher than that, but 85.
No,
we'll roll with
I'm
that.
gonna keep it at 85. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't trust myself at all anymore.
All right. Well, 85 is your answer, but I'm 100% sure I'm going to enjoy this guest you're about to introduce. Huh?
That's one of your better ones.
Thank you. So Take it away, sir. Who do we have with us this episode?
Well, coming to us from Denver, we're really excited to have him. This week's guest on My Funny Friends. Oh my God, it's getting hot already. Ben Kronberg, everybody. Ben Kronberg.
You scared him off, man. You said something and he stopped unbuttoned. Like, come on.
Sorry. I just thought I was. How you doing?
Hey, man. Thanks for doing this.
What did you burn this time?
This time. I think it was the seasoning on the asparagus. I just threw it on the tray, threw the seasoning on, and I think the seasoning actually burned.
Did not know that was the route you were going to go.
Yeah, well, hey, here we go.
Like cooking some ribs, and I burn them too.
No, I don't have to see the girlfriend tonight, so I was like, I'm eating asparagus.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Just think about it and then come back to me, Drew.
Okay. We need to talk to her later. Make sure she's okay. Don't know what kind of weird asparagus related things you're doing with her, but you need to stop. Okay.
Oh, what?
Tennessee, it's still the South. There's probably still some 1916 law.
Yeah, asparagus when you're drinking your own pee.
I like the smell.
Yeah.
Okay. We all got our things, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, Ben, we always like to kick it off with just a random, what year and where did you start stand-up comedy?
That's a very good question. Not the most common question, not the least common question of starting, but it is. I think there's there's an interesting psychology behind any comedian's answer about the year that they started comedy, because there's probably the, thinking about Batman's origin story, one could argue Batman became Batman when Batman first put on the bat suit. But one could also argue Batman became Batman when the wheels were set in motion, seeing his parents murdered in front of him, right?
Okay. All right. I like this.
So luckily my parents were never murdered.
That's good to hear.
And so that's why I'm a comedian, not a crime fighter.
That one thing,
But my parents did get divorced.
And they got the comedian and not
divorced.
The vigilante. Yeah.
We got divorced when I was in 4th grade, which would have been 1986. So I guess I started comedy in 1986.
Ah, okay.
I like it.
All right, I like this. Yeah.
So how was the comedy scene for you in 1986?
Yeah, how was it? I was running jokes.
Was it a tough classroom?
Well, that's into it? I think that's also the thing is parents divorce, then me and my mom, brother and sister go live somewhere else. And so I go to 5th grade in a different school than I went to 4th grade. So different set of friends. So that's when I had to learn, it's like kind of going from your scene of comedy to another scene of comedy. You got to figure out how to
start over,
how to endear yourself to them. And so I think I learned from those places how to kind of, make friends or figure out, survive basically. And it wasn't, I didn't grow up in like tough neighborhoods. I wasn't like, whatever. But I think I learned how to make friends. And I think that learning how to make friends and maybe the learning, making people laugh or trying to joke around with, finding the funny in the scenarios and the moments. But in all, literal sense of comedy, I probably started comedy because of I got my major comedy brain going after 9/11 happened.
Hmm.
No joke. As far as 2001, I graduated college in spring of '99, and my mom bought me a guitar my last semester of college. I grew up playing the piano, but I always wanted to play the guitar because I had friends that were guitar players, and so that bitch finally bought me a guitar, and so then I had this guitar that I fiddled around with, and then I guess. Yeah, I guess 9/11 happened, and then around then was when I really started. Like I don't know if I'd made songs up before then. I want to say I must have, but it was really like I had a reason to sing a song, or maybe paranoia, fear, flooding with an already like latent creativity, need for creativity or expression came out. So then, I wrote this song called Ballad of the Jihad, and Ballad of the Jihad was kind of a fear-based, not somewhat xenophobic because of the position that we're in, being, kind of the national the histamine of nationalism comes up after terrorism happens.
It's
Right.
called being patriotic, man.
Yeah, and but trying to, not be like so racist about it per se, but just like, the song basically repeated, "It can't happen to me. It can't happen to me." There's other words too, but that's the chorus. And then I, wrote another song because we ended up going to war. But then by that time, I was like, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? I saw kind of through those things, not necessarily, from a conspiracy theory perspective, but just from like wars. This whatever we're doing is dumb. Like
Right.
A human being perspective.
Yeah.
yeah. And then I wrote a song about war. And then war happens and stuff, and then I start writing songs about poop and pee and my girlfriend getting her tubes tied, or my credit card debt, things like that. And then
Classics.
yeah, and I've gone to film school, but after film school I moved to Denver, and then probably about 2002 2003 I started working at this bar by where I lived, and I'd never really had a college experience, so like I'd commuted a lot from my mom's place, listening to her and her boyfriend fuck a lot, more than me getting to fuck, sort of thing,
That's
just
good. That's good.
The driving force,
real world. And so yeah, that at this I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm loving every step of
Why
this
did we
journey.
ask him on? So there was an open mic that started happening at this bar on Tuesday night. So I decided, I got up the gumption one Tuesday night, and it was a music open mic, and I knew I had some songs that I wanted to try, so I tried those songs. And then there was a guy there that was the host of the mic, and he played guitar better than me, so I could kind of show him what I was going to play, and then he could play it, and I could just sing it,
Oh, nice.
And then eventually I would kind of just do that every week, and then somebody in that audience said like, "Oh, you should try. That was pretty funny. You should try that at the comedy club." And I'd never really contextualized what I was doing as comedy per se. I was like just doing funny songs, and I always liked comedy. I liked like Adam Sandler's songs and other
Right.
things like that. And always grew up, watching comedy, gravitating toward comedy. But then that kind of having somebody the stereotypical, you should try that.
Yeah,
You should try
You should do that.
comedy.
You
You should
should
try
sign
this
up.
comedy club. Yeah, so then that was, that was probably 2003, 2004 that whatever I was doing kind of kicked into gear to be put into the context of comedy, and then that just sort of, yeah, so then from that point on I started to do comedy in Denver.
Nice. So that's early, like you said, like 2003, 2004 in Denver.
Yeah, I would say because I was doing comedy in Denver for about 5 years before I moved to LA, but with conflated dreams.
I'm just very intrigued. What was the open mic? What was the comedy scene like? So early on in Denver.
yeah.
Well, it
That
was I mean, I think there was internet, but there wasn't like social media and shit like that. And I mean, maybe MySpace, I guess. Oh, and I also had a song about McDonald's. I could do it as a acoustic song, or I could do it as a rap song.
okay.
I have a couple different versions of it.
Versatility. Huh?
Yeah, it was cool. It was like because it was the comedy club, the Comedy Works, the downtown club, and then there was one other open mic around, and that was at the Lions Lair, which it's still going on
Oh
to this
yeah,
day
yeah.
on Mondays.
Oh wow.
Definitely, changed kind of hands a couple times. Really, not as many hands as you would think from being that long, but
Anthony Crawford has it now, right?
Anthony Crawford's doing it now, thank goodness. And then there's a couple other comedy couple that ran it before. When I started it, started doing it. It was Troy Baxley, and Troy Baxley was like had been doing comedy probably for already 10 or more years at that point, and so he was a lot of our inspirations. He was really funny. He was I think he might have headlined and stuff at the Comedy Works, but he ran this mic, and he was definitely like somebody who was doing both things. He was doing the professional shows at the club, but he was also doing, so he was a good mentor in a way to have, and also just like a really fun, inspiring voice to have in the scene that was seasoned. He had jokes, he had a voice, he had a style, and he gave sort of a more tangible example of comedy than like just people that you would see on TV or whatever.
Yeah, like a more realistic example to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, so he was someone that everyone was looking up to because he's trying to grow the scene and try and support the scene while
Yeah.
also doing the job. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, by that, like, my 21st birthday, I think, was the first time I went to the Comedy Works, and that was before I had started comedy. So then after that, I'd gone to the Comedy Works a couple different times. I was lucky enough to see Mitch Hedberg there.
Oh
So
wow.
I did have some more. I saw like David Cross and things like that before starting comedy. So those were also like kind of in my face things again, but not, it took me until somebody saying you should try it at the comedy club. Like, I want to do that,
Yeah.
Maybe I had the idea in my head of like, that would be cool to do, but I don't know if I really thought, I don't, it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Well,
How,
that like self doubt also kind of coupled with, am I actually this much of a narcissist? And then you
Mhm.
just and then you just need someone to be like, hey, you actually are. Go do it. And you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
okay, cool, thank you. Just thanks. I just need you to say it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Need that little that gentle push.
Yeah.
It's also so wild to hear how small the scene was, because I always tell people
It's huge now.
how just like, because what we're here, here in Nashville, it's a great scene, but it's still like, we don't have like a Monday show besides Zany's, like little things like that, where it's like whenever I come to Denver, it's like I'm doing too much comedy. Like, like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Corey
Yeah.
David takes me around. Corey's like, you want to go to another mic? And I'm like, I want to go to bed, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
Yeah.
how it was. I went from being in the small scene of Wilmington, and going
Yeah.
and checking out Denver and being like, oh
Yeah.
wow.
that's
Like,
just
it's
funny.
crazy when two people in the scene don't know each other. You know what I mean? Like that big of a scene where you're like, I think I've heard of that guy. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. The Yeah, I mean, it started. There was still a core group of people. Like I can still kind of remember them, and it was the people that were doing like the new talent night, and the
Hmm.
new talent night was on Tuesday nights. And then there was another mic that started that was like a couple blocks away from where Lions Lair was, and that was the Squire Lounge. That was probably where you know where I felt like this was my place to this is my bar, like this is my open mic. Because the Lions Lair was good, but it was it was different. Like I didn't feel a part of it. Like I would go and do it, but I didn't feel a part of it. But once, I kind of got asked by another comedian who I met, Greg Baumauer, who started the Squire. I got asked and told by him to do it, and so I felt kind of like I belonged to that club particular, like I
Yeah.
heard,
Yeah.
and
It's like you need
uh,
that assign sometimes. Be like, oh, okay,
mhm.
I do feel like a part of this now.
Yeah.
So then that gave me like most of my early stage time being able to try things because I was only getting on at the Comedy Works maybe you get 2 minutes for your first time there, so then and then you have to wait sometimes 3 months to get on for the first time, and then another 3 to 4 months to get on for the second time. So that
Yeah.
building up and proving yourself to get to the 3 minute mark, and then the 4 minute mark, and then the 5 minute mark, which then that's kind of the new talent range, and then once they could move you up to almost famous, which is a 7 minute unpaid spot on the weekends, right? Like you're funny enough to be on the weekends but not funny enough to get paid or do 10 minutes. Then when you start doing 10 minutes, and then it's like, but it gave like, once you were in the mode, it gave like some goals to set, some manageable
Yeah.
goals where then you all these, I think, people starting more in the more recent times, you know the goals, the goals are just a lot quicker. I don't know, like, because I
Yeah.
didn't
Like,
really have any goal of
Steps.
becoming a comedian, let alone. So I was able to have my goals come to me naturally, a little bit more
Yeah.
naturally than like, I'm listening to Joe Rogan podcasts. I love comedy. I want to do comedy. I want to be on fucking HBO one day, just while you're
Million
listening
things.
to the fucking
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
yeah. Right.
Like
Right.
I didn't have that like evolution or that goal trajectory in my brain,
Kind
which
of taking it as it came,
I
kind of
don't
thing.
think I could have. And then I would people in the green room at Comedy Works that were really into it. Like after we were doing it for like a couple years, they'd be like, "Yeah, if I'm not making a living doing comedy, by the time I'm 8 years in, I'm gonna quit." Like they're already talking about they're
Oh,
talking about quitting before they've even gotten
Yeah.
you know.
If I cover my electric bill doing comedy, I'm pumped.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like adjusting your expectations and
did I
kind of
get it? Yeah, I
doing.
get excited if I get to buy dinner like with comedy money on the way
Uh,
home. You
yeah,
know?
yeah. I got this Taco Bell run.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is so that's such a blessing in disguise to be like, yeah, you have to learn 3 minutes, 4 minutes, five, seven, 10.
Mm.
Because there's a lot of young comics I talk to that are like, I want to be headlining by next year. And you're like, how about you learn how to be funny
Uh-huh.
and do it for 5 minutes
Yeah.
and and then start there, and
Well,
it's
I remember when I start, like, it's so funny how much we put so much pressure on time. How much time do you have? Because I
yeah,
remember when I was starting out, everyone, the powers that be everywhere I went seemed to equate how much time you had with how long you've been doing it. So, like, if you had 20 minutes 4 years in, they're like, no, no way. There's no way. There's no way you have 20 minutes. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
and then you start talking and you're like, oh, I don't have 20 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, looking back at it now,
I
no, I
mean,
did not
like
have 20
funny
minutes.
20, a
I was
funny
on the
20.
stage for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Well, that's that I was. Yeah, and everybody does different, right? Because like you got your storyteller comedians that are like medium to short to medium stories. You have your longer storyteller comedians. You have like more joke writer comedians, and then like I was I had songs. But then I started doing I kind of quickly realized placing my songs in the comedy works comedy club context there's a lot of like the stigma around musical comedy or prop comedy that is kind of like, yeah, well, you just get to play your guitar up there and have that crutch, and like, so then that kind of threw down the gauntlet for me to be like, I wanted to gain the respect of the people around me, and I didn't want to, and I thought what I was doing was fun, and I got to be performing the songs good, and it gave a variety to the show. But of course, the purists and the egos of comedians kind of like whatever, so that kind of forced me into that peer pressure, kind of forced me into writing jokes, but I was never a storyteller.
Right.
Like maybe there was some stories in my songs, but really it was more just like observational abstractions, or like maybe wordplay, or concentrated topic coverage of like pee, poop, explore it.
Let's go deeper here.
Where did it all come from?
Yeah. Come, I should write that down. And so yeah, I think doing that, and then I started writing jokes, but I just was inclined to, and maybe inspired by Mitch Hedberg or something, for just doing one-liners, because that was just fun to me. Because it also got me out of my own head and my own life, which going through the trauma of your parents getting divorced, well, why would you want to think about that all the time?
Right. Let's tell a big story about this.
But like but I think, yeah, and I really liked what jokes did with my how it could occupy my time, of like, it was a different way to look at the world. It was a way more interesting way to look at the world than I kind of had been. I was like experiencing life. Now I have something to do with these experiences that feels kind of more empowering, or more purposeful or meaningful than just life.
Yeah, just repeating a story word for word back.
Yeah.
Okay, it's cool. So you're doing the mics, you're doing comedy works, and so what's kind of your next step in there? Like, what's happening? Are you like starting to go on the road? Did you start following around with somebody, or what? What kind of happened?
I guess just it gave me something to do with my time. I'd gone to film school, so I was kind of doing that concurrently a bit while working at this bar, doing some video work and stuff locally. But that was what I went to school for, so that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But I was like, this comedy's way cooler than anything that I'm doing with film. Like, the skill and the occasional paycheck from doing the video stuff was cool, and that gave me like I made that McDonald's rap song called McRap. And while working at this place, I was able to make us, because I went to film school, and it was before all like a bunch of digital stuff. It was when you could still like edit on film.
Yeah.
So I was making, like, I shot like a bunch of Super 8 stuff.
Cool.
And so I had that creative outlet like when I was in college, and I did a couple like Super 8 films in high school. So I had that, and I was like, well, I had this song, and this guy that I was working for, he's like, ooh, you should make a music video for this song. I'll pay for it to be made, or whatever. You can make it here. So I gotta make this music video on Super 8, and then get it transferred and edit it. And that's kind of what taught me nonlinear editing. And so I thought that was fun and cool, because I was like, using both kind of creative modes.
Oh, right.
Whereas,
Yeah, it's a clash of your world.
Yeah, the other stuff that I was doing was like, it was like interviews, like corporate, talking head sort of promotional videos, which is fine and cheesy and fun, like. So I was doing some of those things, and so it kind of allowed me to see a bigger picture of comedy, and then I just kept doing it. And then there was a Comedy Works contest that would happen, and anybody that had $25 could
do the contest.
And so I, gave him my $25, and I didn't make it, past the first round. First year that I did it, maybe that was 2003, 2004 or something. Like I did it because you don't do very much time for these contests to start.
Right.
And then, because it was new talent contest or new faces contest. And then second year, same thing. nothing. But then by the third year I did it, which was like 2005 or 2006, I'd been doing comedy enough consistently to where I ended up winning the contest.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was a big like confidence booster, motivational thing of like, a goal that I never have, but a goal achieved. Or,
Right.
I didn't have it originally, but I was presented with it, and then I did that, and then, and then from winning that contest and I got to go to this Las Vegas comedy festival that was like kind of a scam.
What?
That's
No.
never happened.
Never seen those.
But it was still cool. My dad
Must
lived
have been
in
the
Vegas.
one off.
Yeah, so it was like, so I got to go to this, like, or I got a plane ticket. I don't know if it was like because I won the contest, I got to go there, but I think I got a plane ticket for winning. I got money and a plane ticket, and I decided to use the plane ticket to go to this festival in Vegas. That again, you had to pay to get into. What wasn't like
Yeah.
They didn't ask you to come. You were like, well, I'm coming.
I'll be there.
I got to meet some people there, and then
Did you say your dad lived in Vegas? Is that what you said?
yeah, he did live in Vegas. Yeah, so I was able to kind of like justify it,
And plus, to have a place to stay when you go to a festival that you're already paying to be at is
yeah,
top notch,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did that, and then after that, I submitted to the Aspen, the HBO Aspen Comedy Festival that happened. It was like 2007, and it was last year that it ever happened.
Wow.
So I got it. I got into that. I submitted a tape that I had made at Comedy Works, which has really kind of like notoriously good crowds.
I've
kind of easier than the average crowd in a way. So I was able to put together a good tape, which, now I think a lot of places don't even accept tapes from Comedy Works.
That's I was so excited when I got my Comedy Works tape, and I was like, this is gonna get me in the festivals. And the second I mentioned it, I don't even remember who I mentioned it to. They were like, oh no, festivals don't accept Comedy Works. And I was like, then what do you want? I was like, I do it in the back of a bar. You don't want it. I do it in front of 300 people. You don't want it. I was like, I don't know what to do.
It's too easy, Will.
Yeah. But that was one of the things that played in my favor, right? So there's, it's at any given time down the line, the only thing that has continually served me getting to the next level really was just the stupid stereotypical like keeping at it. Just like doing it, because I didn't, when I started doing it, I didn't have any goals of doing it. I didn't have any goals of doing it before doing it, but I kept doing it. Right. And I was able to do it without feeling too discouraged with not winning a contest.
Yeah.
Or not getting booked on this show or that show. And so building up that tolerance or that patience with it. Whereas but then, it's just a natural thing when you start seeing other people get other things and you want those things. And why the fuck did he fucking get to fucking do the fucking shit? Because I want to do the fucking shit.
Yeah.
And this sort of resentment and comparisons and, again, it's all mostly ego play, which, helps us give us the confidence or whatever, and the continual urge to get on stage for the accolades and the endorphins and dopamine that you feel after you crush.
Those laughs. I need those laughs.
But then also dealing with those things of like, I didn't do so well. I don't feel so hot.
Yeah. Now you gotta wait till you go back up.
Mom, I don't feel so hot. I didn't crush.
Like it's 2 a.m. Don't call me.
My mom would just be like, I know. Like, still to this day, the only time my mom has seen me do comedy, it was god awful.
Yeah.
So I could call her and she'd be like, I know, honey. You should have quit years ago.
Drew's so much better about checking his ego than I am. So like Drew's like, the second he's like going one way, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna stay humble. I'm gonna, acknowledge my accomplishments and then I'm like, I go like Kanye, where I'm like, yeah, that's a good cum joke, but I'm gonna write the greatest cum joke of all time.
Dude, I just have Lou Morgante. I just have Lou, my buddy Lou pop up, and he says it so nice. He would always catch me, keep me in check in Wilmington. He'd be like, "Don't get bitter, get better, buddy." And
Oh
I
yeah.
just keep
There's a sticker outside of the Denver Comedy Lounge on this little electrical box that says that.
perfect.
Yeah.
See,
It's right by this
it's
cool
a great
thing.
motto to live by.
Yeah.
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 I'm not saying it's worked 100% of the time. I'm just saying
Well,
it's
yeah.
worked 10% of the time.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, it also sounds like instead of pursuing goals, it sounds like you more so capitalized on opportunities, learned from those opportunities, and then created more opportunities from them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was, again, also a lot of this happening. I mean, there was MySpace, and then there was like comedy MySpace, and or things of that nature that gave a platform for an earlier platform for comedy or comedy content. But yeah, it was just sort of like it was an adventure that I'd never. I was each time, each thing that would come up, be it a fucking open mic at a dive bar to a weird show in the sticks or the mountains, and just like people doing it, people needing it. And I wasn't crushing all the time. I wasn't doing good all the time, and so I think I got okay with not doing good.
Well, I mean, I'm sure
But
you
or
you
just
wanted to try something.
being able to do it and not feel too bad about not doing good,
Yeah.
because I was doing also a lot of like, maybe more like edgier jokes, or jokes that, you know, depending on the context and the place that I'm telling them, they're like people aren't getting them, and I didn't have anything to lose by saying, I love being able to say whatever I wanted. So I would like to go into these like taboo realms and subject matters that like, sure, I'll try this because why not?
Yeah.
You
So
know,
sort of like
there's a
discovering
lot
your voice. Yeah.
yeah, and that was kind of fun. And then like, because I could at least get people to groan or.
Yeah, you get a reaction.
hmm Well, that was also a thing where, I think we get myopic with comedy and thinking about I want to get you want to get laughs, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the basic main principle of, telling a punchline is getting laughs. But thinking like backing up, looking at the other things that are happening within comedy, which is a performance, which is also entertainment. So like thinking about like are you at least being entertaining? Are you giving them something they're entertaining in their minds, or are you, giving them a performance? Are you making a show? Or because sometimes with you're just like so focused on jokes, I gotta get this joke, and there's really no performance or entertainment about it. Sometimes you can make the subject matter of the jokes cut through, but you know
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so I think thinking about those things and like focusing on those other aspects of the thing can kind of help ease the burden of just making your jokes funny, which is yeah, but also you
It's
know
performance. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. There was I forget, I don't remember the name of the comic, but he was like an older guy, road dog, like, been doing it for 30 years. And we were in Penn State. We were at Penn State, State College, and we had like 4 shows together. And I was hosting, and the first night he was like, "Yeah, you're just telling the jokes. You got to like perform the
Tell the
joke." He's like, "You got to do the jokes." And then I didn't really understand it. And then like the next day, I like put in my body behind it. I started moving
yeah.
and like, and here's this joke, and here. And that's something that was a couple of years ago, but something I've always tried to remember. And sometimes I'll be halfway through a set and then be like, "Ah, shit, I didn't do it." Yeah.
I got that from a road dog comic too one time, but it wasn't because I wasn't performing the jokes. It's the first show I slipped on one of the stairs and pinched some nerve in my back. So literally the first show of the night, I sat there and was scared to move. Like I got like right up against the wall and like told my jokes with like my head cocked to the side. Because anytime I did anything, it's shooting pain up my back.
Dude.
And the headliner's like looking at me like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, my back. He's like, oh, he's like, I thought I was about to have to watch that for a weekend. I was like, well, depending on how this feels, you might have to. So I don't know what to tell you. But he thought that was just my style. But I was just like,
Yeah, his style is having a stroke. That's his. So you do Aspen, and then what comes after that?
Yeah, so I did Aspen. I got Aspen basically by submitting a tape, and what I had done is I had because Comedy Works would record your sets for you, and you could pay for them, buy them off them. They'll fucking take your fucking jokes hostage. You can buy them back. And so I had editing experience. So what I did is I took, instead of just submitting one set, I took all the jokes that I wanted to submit to Aspen. So I made like a cut from my different sets at Comedy Works wearing different things, but they were different jokes, because I put it in the order. So I submitted this. It was, each joke that I chose had, there's good response to it. And then the booker for it called me and was like, yeah, I want to, really like your tape, but we'd like to see you do just a continual set of these jokes as opposed to these, different cuts of it. I thought I was being creative. So then I flew out to LA to showcase it for them in person.
Well, I mean, that's still cool. It led to that, They weren't just like, no, thank you. We're not taking that tape.
Yeah. That was really cool to be able to go out there and, so I got past the first round, and I, went to the Improv, which the A&E's Evening at the Improv used to be a show back in the day. So that was kind of like an unfulfilled, like I wasn't dream come true because it was never a dream, but it was also like, wow, I'm here.
Nice. Yeah.
I used to watch, whatever. And so that was really fun. And, then got into Aspen, and then because I got into Aspen, some slimy fucking managers, no, just some, they're opportunists. Everybody in the representation world is an opportunist, kind of because they have to be, and there's something valid about them, and something validating about having one. Like now I'm a fucking comedian because I have a fucking agent or whatever. But It's just another relationship to feel unfulfilled by. And it's a whole other set of expectations to present yourself with, to also then be disappointed by. So I got courted by this management company that was pretty good, by 3 Arts, which was,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and and they had other people that they're working with, and like TJ Miller got in that year, Kyle Kinane got in that year, Michael Costa, who's on the Daily Show right now, got in that year, Michelle Buteau, Hari Kondabolu, so there was a slew of people, Kirk Fox and Shane Moss, and that was all like 2007 Aspen, and then it was like
Jesus.
It was like really cool, but also like, all right, here I am, and I'm find out the shows that I'm doing. I'm putting this wrong. I find out the shows that I'm doing, and kind of excited and nervous, and but also thinking I'm fucking funnier than these people. And like I fucking write creative jokes. Dan Mintz was also. Dan Mintz is he doesn't do a lot of like live stand up much anymore, but he's on Bob's Burgers. He's the girl's voice on Bob's Burgers.
Oh, that's fantastic. One of my favorite shows.
Everybody that I was in Aspen with got really super successful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I never reached the level of what a lot of those people reached in certain regards. I got things, and that's to say whatever, but there's still those things of like, wow, they really,
Yeah.
But I was still lucky to get it, and from getting Aspen, I met the booker at Jimmy Kimmel, but I was like, I want to do Conan. Like by that time I had like, where it's like, you know, like,
Yeah.
I don't want Marianne, I want Ginger. And yeah.
Well, and Kimmel would have been, because I interned for Kimmel and I worked for him like on little spurts whenever I go out to LA. But I remember stand up was always in that one small stage they have in the
Uh-huh.
side room, and it was always so weird.
Uh-huh.
Like I was always excited to watch the stand up, but I just remember
Yeah.
like audiences were tight. No one
Yeah.
really knew what to do about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting and it was fine, and I got it, but
Yeah,
it took me from that. I didn't get on Kimmel till 2008-ish cuz I thought I was going to be on right away,
yeah,
but it took a while, and then they were like, "Oh, we had somebody drop out. Can you do it this weekend?" And I couldn't for some reason, or I was scheduled to do it, but then they're like, "Oh, we're not doing it now." And then, so eventually got to do it, and like Johnny Knoxville was on that episode, and he had a catheter in or something. It was after one of the jackasses. But it was a really fun experience. Green room. I was living in
yeah.
LA by that time. My manager talked me into moving to LA or New York, so I moved to LA because I had family in Southern California, and it was like
A little bit
whatever, it's
better.
an adventure. And I don't know that I would have ever moved out of Denver had it not been for this opportunity.
Right.
Or I would have kept trying to work my way up through comedy work system and things like that. But I'd only been doing like comedy for like 5 years by the time like that stuff was happening. Like me moving to LA, and then but all I wanted to do was comedy and stand up. But then you move to LA, and your manager they want you to like audition for shows or submit writing packets, and
Yeah,
so I got a little bit of practice doing that, but I hadn't even barely sunk my teeth into doing comedy.
yeah,
And they don't want you to do comedy. They want you to get a TV show so they get residuals, so you get residuals, and they don't want you to do movies. Like I would rather do a movie that sounds cooler to me than a TV show. A TV show sounds like a 9 to 5 job.
yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
a 9 to 5 job.
Right.
I like
But they don't want to be paid in drink tickets, so they're
yeah,
like, stop doing stand up.
yeah, exactly. Like this stand up is to get you these other things, and that kind of also opened my eyes and mind up to other opportunities that maybe it isn't just about stand up, but because my ego is wrapped around being a stand up, but it was what got me all my opportunities. It was being seen on stage, saying jokes that made people be like, "Oh, I bet you'd be an all right writer." Or, or because I could be comfortable in front of people, oh, you couldn't be an actor maybe.
Yeah,
And just being open to those things, and opportunities, and like I still then had the trajectory of like, well, no, I want to tour, I want to do shows, I want to have comedy specials, I want to have an album or whatever. And to this day I don't have an album. I've been doing comedy for almost 20 years. I don't have a comedy album.
Yeah.
I have a half hour. I did a half hour on Comedy Central,
right.
and that came from again just being in the mix, moving to New York, being seen by Comedy Central people, having them be like, you should do this John Oliver thing, and then from the John Oliver thing, being able to have the dialogue of doing the other things, even though I had like agents around those times, it wasn't because of the agents that I got the things.
Wow.
Yeah,
It was by being in the places. It was by being in LA or being in New York or being in Aspen, getting into Aspen. I didn't get into Aspen because I had an agent.
right.
Right.
I didn't have the booker from Kimmel come up to me because I had an agent. He didn't know I had an agent. But the agent was, or my manager was, poking around and like inserting himself in conversations.
Right.
And that was the biggest lesson. And I totally recommend. I mean, you'll know when you need an agent, and probably not even then.
Yeah.
Because when I had an agent and it was somebody that could book me weekends and things. This guy Matt Frost, fuck him. Um, no, he's all right. He was just like He was with, I forget what agency, but a pretty good agency with other comedians, um, notable comedians. And but he wouldn't get me, like, even when I had my Comedy Central half hour coming up, he wasn't getting me many headlining dates, and the headlining dates he was getting me were like in Cleveland, or nothing against Cleveland, or like the House of, or like the House of Comedy in Minneapolis, like not Acme, not the cool one.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
my type of act would fit into, where they're a little bit more open. It was like the Mall of America one,
right.
Oof.
and then, even one time I'm like, hey, I got a half hour, I got this half hour coming up, and I'd really like to practice for it, and I'm gonna be doing a college, and I had a college agent, and that was the thing that made me the most consistent comedy money that I had.
Yeah,
But the college gigs are they're not the
Oof.
best.
yeah,
They're the least satisfying, biggest paying gigs,
yeah.
and but it was fine. And then so through this stuff, I'm like, well, I'm going to be in San Antonio doing this college, and I see that there's this guy Eric Griffin headlining headlining Cap City that weekend that I'm around there. I was like, do you think, could you reach out to them to see if I could feature for him? And he's like, my agent gets back to me. He's like, I don't book features. I only book heads.
Oh my God.
Because he has his ego, right?
Yeah, yeah, right.
And I'm like, fuck you. So I ended up I had this other agent that I met who wasn't my agent, who was kind of trying to court me. So I leveraged it. So I had this other agent who wasn't my agent, but he was actually a nice guy. There's some people that will give you advice and give you direction and help you with things,
Yeah,
and not really expect things. There are a few good eggs,
hmm,
but yeah, then this guy ended up getting me in there because he was an agent. Because I knew I needed an agent to get into this club I'd never performed into.
Right.
right.
And that's the thing about clubs, not the Denver Comedy Lounge, but that's the thing about these other clubs where they work with agents.
Yeah, and that's something I didn't even like. Probably in the last 2 years was something I learned. Like I always was like, because I would see certain headliners and be like, how are they doing this? And then just from poking around was like, oh, it's all booked through the same agency. Like I didn't realize this club exclusively worked with this agency. Like I didn't realize that was a thing for so long.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, the improv sort of things,
Mhm.
comedy works. And that's the kind of fucked up thing that like comedy works does with like certain comedians. Could you tell I was like fucking itching my balls?
I figured it
Um,
was something like that, but I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna comment. He's comfy.
um, yeah, like like comedy works with like, so even if there's somebody, like, so they book, say they book Jay Moore, or they book whoever they book, but if there's somebody else that works with that agent, that they don't even, like, they might let him come into town and be the feature for a bigger headliner, but there's still somebody that's like a comedian that's in the hustle and stuff. They will keep them from being able to perform at other places, even though they don't let them perform or headline at Comedy Works. So they have a big net of, like, well, because I'm representing, the comedians from your agency, I'm book them, but they can't. I'm grooming them, waiting for them to be able to be famous enough to sell tickets to perform at this club.
Uh,
Um, but that's one of the I think the reasons why, like, book now that I'm running the Denver Comedy Lounge,
yeah,
and how we present things is we don't advertise any names, really. Like, people
yeah,
can advertise that they're performing,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
but any advertising that we're doing or promoting of shows, it's like Friday night stand up showcase, comedian seen on Comedy Central, NBC, ABC,
right,
or Saturday night late night with just general credits, because
right,
that way, if I'm lucky enough, I can contact a comedian that might be, maybe they're headlining at Comedy Works, but now I can get them to come here to maybe even just do a set, or
right.
they could come into town and do a weekend, and it's not advertised because we don't sell tickets based on that,
Right.
Yeah, so it's more like
on
the
the name.
reputation.
Unlike we could, but we don't need to because we don't have to have a big space to fill up,
Right.
or so it helps with a lot of things to where or cancellations
Mhm.
or I'm doing a showcase of local comedians that those same comedians are on other shows and their faces are on other shows, and so it doesn't really behoove multiple shows to have the same face because that happens a lot in scenes, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the different like Mitch mix match, like there he is again, there or whatever. Which as a comedian, you want to be like, I want to be seen on all the things,
Yeah.
But you can do but comedians do their own promotion,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm at
Well,
the lounge all weekend, or
yeah.
here's my run of shows that I'm doing,
Right.
like
It
every
also speaks to the reputation of the club, that people don't have to rely on. I'm only going if I know the person.
Yeah,
They
no,
know they're going to go and have a good time. So what does it matter to them?
yeah.
yeah
The comedy studio in Boston's similar. Like they're just like, yeah, just trust us. You've trusted us for this long. Come here.
yeah
It's gonna be a good show. Yeah, it's when I was when I was in Denver, when we first met when I was in Denver, Drew Morgan was in town as well, and he and I could be twins. And so it was like anytime a flyer popped up, it was just like, it's like it's just like, it was like we were on every show, because we just look
Combined.
exactly the same. Yeah. So when did you open the Denver Comedy Lounge?
it opened like I guess I moved back to because I was living in I was like in LA for a couple years,
Right.
and then I decided once I started doing colleges, I traveled around and didn't really need to have a home because I was just going, bebopping around. So then I ended up moving to New York because a buddy of mine who I'd known for a long time lived there, and I was like, oh, New York was really cool and fun and all the shows, and it was a much different vibe, and it was more stand-up oriented. I could go there and feel nurtured and justified as a stand-up, whereas as every showcase and show that mattered in LA was like literally a showcase, to be
Yeah.
seen,
Yeah.
not just to do it. And then
You got to press your shirt beforehand,
yeah,
and yeah.
I was in New York for like 10 years, and then when it was going through breakup, I moved back here in like 2019, and it was probably about, 2000, maybe 2018, April 2018, that I moved back, and then about it was about like mid 2019 that I got involved with doing stuff at the Denver Comedy Lounge, and I'm not going to get into the story because it's a whole other story. But somebody that I knew
Oh,
from
darn. I guess we'll have to have you back and talk about it
yeah,
sometime.
no, I mean it's not necessarily something that I want to talk about too much because there's politics involved in it, just like everything. But I got very fortunate, and again, the opportunity came up, and again, I never wanted to run a comedy club or own a comedy club. That wasn't when I started having dreams about doing comedy things. That was one of the last things. But now I'm having way more fun and enjoying this phase of comedy more than you know because now I don't have to like travel around all the time and road dog it and beat
Yeah.
the pavement and go from $50 gig to $50 gig, and I get to rectify or do things that I could see that were stupid with comedy clubs and bookings and all those rules and having to wait to go up on stage. And so now I can I feel like in a good position to be able to like help people out,
Yeah.
like when I was starting out, or giving opportunities to people that aren't getting opportunities at Comedy Works because they're not on their radar, or they still have to work their way up through the system. I can get people through a lot more because people are getting better a lot quicker now because of how much stage time there is.
Yeah.
You know, like back in the day, I think Comedy Works had to do that, but that was old old school kind of methodology, whereas now it's sort of like there's a lot of whatever, and I can go out to open mics and check out who's in the scene, or somebody that gets recommended to me, or a tape that comes to me, and I can like, yeah, sure, I'll give you some time, like it's,
Right.
you know, try to make it all good, and try to get people comfortable, like the locals. Like I have a stable of people that I work with that are, quality, and they know the club and they know the people that work there, so they're friendly and doing all the right things outside of their own set. And you know
Because there is etiquette, when you're a young local comic,
yeah,
there's etiquette on how to act at your local club that you're trying to get in at. It's a respect thing. And
yeah,
so,
Right. Right. And it's like befriending the staff is so it's just such an
huge.
important thing because it's like you don't want to walk in and then immediately the bartender's like, this fucking asshole's back.
Yeah.
You know?
well, yeah, and I've had that even with some different headliners, and oddly enough, two of them that were like San Francisco comics that and both my friends
Right.
that were rude and kind of cocky and entitled to people that work there, and then they're like, yeah, that person was an asshole. So then it's like, but I can't. That's also the thing, is like I want to be able to like book my friends or people that I think are funny, but also I have to honor these people that I'm working with and who are helping me out in the cause. And there's, right now there's too many comedians to be like to worry about it too much, like, and
Yeah.
they'll find another place to perform if I'm not booking. It's not
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
You don't have
I'm
to compromise.
I'm throttling their success
Right.
by, or at least waiting till that person who hates them quits. Like
All
those
right, we can try
ways to
this
go
again.
about it.
Nice. Well, how would you say the Denver scene as a whole is right now, as opposed to when you started?
It's had its like heyday of peaking, not peaking, but like, there was a time there where it was like the people that were in the scene were then going on to do things, or at least there was a lot of people kind of making stuff happen. But I would say that the now, I mean, I really like the scene now because I'm a part of it still. I wasn't thinking that I was ever not a part of it, even when I moved away. But because I'd always come back and visit and shit.
Hmm.
But now that I've moved back and am running a room, but there's other people that run rooms, and I think the opportunities now for cool shows, especially weekend shows and doing runs. And I got a buddy that does shows in Boulder on Thursday nights. I got another buddy that does shows in Boulder on Sunday nights that are really good. Another guy that does a Boulder show on like Tuesdays or Wednesdays that are really good.
Nice.
And so there's things, the comedy club. There's a comedy club in Fort Collins, which
Yeah.
Comedy
Comedy.
for
everyone
it.
loves it, and
Yeah.
it's a really cool. I've only performed there once, but
Such
everybody's,
a great guy.
yeah, and everybody's having fun doing that. So like I think the Denver scene is bigger than just the Denver scene, which is great. You can get these runs going, and I'm doing these mountain gigs this weekend on like Saturday and Sunday. And there's shows happening at the Lounge. There's shows happening at Denver Comedy Underground, which isn't too far away from the Lounge.
Okay.
There's shows that happen at Wide Right on the weekends,
Yep.
and they're comedian owned bar, very pro comedy. I would say as pro comedy as it gets, because they have open mics, and it's comedians go and hang out there.
Yeah. It's a
They
good
have
spot.
their like little, it's one of the meetups. There's great open mic on Monday. A new cool open mic just started last night. That's after one that's already happening on the same strip. Plus New Talent Night at Comedy Works is still going on, and they still have, people still, kind of try to suck Comedy Works dick because it is cool and fun and all that sort of thing. And it's, yeah, so I think it's a really good scene. And I think it's really good because other people from other places hear about it and want to come through. So I get lucky not just having it be the same local people over and over again. And it's not also just like the headliners coming into town. It's other people that are just dipping through on a run or a tour or
Yeah.
whatever. which is
Yeah, I can't wait to come back.
yeah.
I love it so much.
Hell yeah.
And another thing I thought was really cool, because the first time I did Denver, I was there for a week, and it was the first week of March 2020.
Oh wow.
And so I did the new talent at Comedy Works, and I think Dan Soder got on and he had a coronavirus joke, because we were just like, someone facetiously got on stage in a mask, like it was like
Yeah.
that's where our mentality was at the time.
Yeah.
But I remember just
This is
doing
all your fault.
yeah, oh God, everything's yeah. But I remember like it was just so many shows. Like it was a great week. And again, like I said, Corey David was taking me around. And he was like, all right, we're doing this brewery show, then we're going to this mic, and then we're going to this, we're going to that. But as like, as everything shut down, and then some parts of the country, unlike Nashville, stayed shut down, you know. But I thought it was amazing how quickly Denver bounced back when they could, because I feel like there was there was obviously a lack of shows at some point for an obvious reason, but I felt like Wide Right didn't have to shutter their doors or anything like that, and I thought that was really really cool. I mean, I just thought it was a cool local thing too.
Yeah, there was a lot of adapting goes on. I think it's because fucking Denver is a hybrid of like, it's not fully liberal, there's a balance of liberal and conservatism, Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
I thought you were just gonna stay in the dark.
Yeah, I think it's like, because New York and LA are very hyper liberal, so they're cautious and like very like, let's get this thing, and they're also densely populated. And but Denver and Boulder, kind of the liberal zones ish, but even surrounding Denver and other suburbs aren't necessarily. So all the different mandates and just all those different things vibing and flowing, and it helped us, because like we did have to shut down at the lounge for a while physically, but it didn't really seem for like that long, because businesses were like, we need to restaurants are closing, they're not able to whatever. And then it was like even before PPP loans or all that shit. But then if you were a bar that served food, or a restaurant, you could be open outside and have like al fresco dining.
Right.
And that's when we got the food component at the sake lounge that allowed us to be open outside. So we're like, well,
Nice.
Oh, we can be open outside if we have food. All right, we do have food.
Gotta
And we
adapt.
have an alleyway that we so we were able to use an alleyway. But that was also to the credit of the people that I'm working with, and the other business that I run the lounge out of, is that they wanted to stay afloat.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were, hungry enough and motivated enough and young enough to not be like, we've been doing this a while. Like, they had just gotten their business up and going. They're like, we're not gonna put all this shit into it and then have this ruin it,
Yeah.
Right.
And
it was like David Rodriguez up at Comedy Fort. Like, he was like, well, I have the space and now I have the time, so I guess I'm just gonna keep building it, And that was, I remember following that on Instagram. That was like his 9-month journey of just like, and now we have a club. There you go. Yeah. It is funny, like when Omicron kicked up, it like, because my feed is, because I came from New York, and like, so my feed is still mostly New York, and now it's a lot of Nashville. And as like as a blue dot in Tennessee, like Omicron kicks up, and we were like, I guess we'll just like not do shows for a week. But my friends in New York were like, if you are not canceling shows next week, go outside and shoot yourself in the face. I was like, oh my God, I don't miss it.
Yeah, we were lucky there wasn't too much of that happening with that sort of policing. A bit there was, but I think I luckily I luckily didn't have to feel too much heat from it, by like, oh, you're still doing shows, because me and Wide Right and the lounge, Wide Right, and not many kind of Comedy Work shut down for quite a while.
Right.
And so I think that also helped us get our footing, because we were serving a thing and getting in there whenever Comedy Works couldn't, and there's still people that wanted to do stuff.
Yeah.
And to this day, when I get calls forwarded to my phone for the lounge, most of the people are like, "So, what do you guys require us to get in? Do you require the vaccination proof?" It's like,
what is this
no,
gonna be?
we don't.
Yeah.
It's like we don't, because that was our thing. Is like, well, we'll do masks if they have masks, but like, you know, but anybody that requires vaccination proof is still experiencing a hit of business.
Yeah, and still breakouts, which is kind of the wild part of all. Well, and also to be at this point in time, the CDC basically just went, "Yeah, we give up."
Yeah.
I mean, they were just like, "We can't. Just go do it. Go do your
Y'all
thing.
do whatever you want to do.
Go
We're
out
done.
there. We're done."
We're tired of this.
Ben, it's been awesome talking to you. What do you have coming up? Is there anything you want to plug outside of the Denver Comedy Lounge?
That's really the only thing that I have going on. It's really my only thing. But
It's my baby.
just doing the thing, and I'm excited to have you back. And whenever you come back around town,
Yeah, September. I can't wait.
Can't wait to see you in September, bud.
Yeah.
Check out the place.
I guess it is September, huh? I guess time will just fly by.
It will.
Yeah.
The summers just go so fast.
Yeah.
Where can they what's the Instagram handle for the Denver Comedy Lounge?
It's the Denver Comedy Lounge.
It is a Denver Comedy Lounge.
It's
Okay.
the Denver Comedy Lounge. Though that's the thing. I don't really, and I need to be better about it, and I'm going to be, but like, because we don't really get many people coming from social media. I mean, maybe if we had a bigger social media following, because when I started it, when the thing, like we don't have that many followers on it, right?
Right.
And I don't really do much posting on it because we mostly get people that are just Googling things to do in Denver.
Oh, okay.
And so it's really mostly just people Googling stuff and Google reviews. So I'm really heavy on like trying to get audiences to leave Google reviews,
Okay.
I never thought I'd be that guy, but for sure,
Leave one.
that's how people find out about it, because I'll be like, when I occasionally host, I'll be like, "Hey, has anybody heard about who here heard about this from Facebook?" And because we'll put money into Facebook ads, and like nobody,
isn't that the wildest thing? Yeah.
So
I've tried to
it's
give it a
important
chance.
to have social media because you'll still get occasionally somebody coming across it, right? But just like a physical flyer on a fucking telephone pole, it's not going to hurt.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily help, but it's not going to hurt. And I think that's what social media advertising has gotten for at least these types of shows that I'm doing. Like, I think if you're trying to cater to a local scene, or because it's not really like a hangout bar, but there's other bars and shows and stuff that are like,
you're in a great
people
spot.
that are more like social media, like, oh, there's something that's going on at the Squire. I think social media still is all right for that, but yeah, the Denver Comedy Lounge.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Nice.
Drew, you got any parting words, Drew?
Come see us St. Patty's Day. Stone Cold Sober. 421.
Sober. Where's
Yeah.
that? What is that?
It's our competitive comedy show. Me and Will host. It's 2 teams of 3, and on each team there's a drunk comic, a stoned comic, and a sober comic.
Okay.
The 2 drunks do 7 minutes. The audience votes on their favorite. The 2 stoned and the 2 sober.
Okay.
Best
Nice.
2 out of 3 wins.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
But who's usually the best set? Like, what substance or non-substance is the best set?
It's usually the drunks.
Yeah.
It's usually the drunks that steal the show. Like, because they like. That's
we
also
put them up
kind of,
last. It's usually the team captains.
And we have like 2 very specific sober comics in our scene, so we're lucky to have them going. But otherwise, it's just like one of our drunk comics being like, "I guess I just won't drink tonight." It's not even like a sober comic; it's just a guy not drinking that evening,
Yeah.
And they're super uncomfortable because they're
which
so used
is
to
what
which
is what we prefer with the show. You know what I mean? Like, if you're normally a little buzzed, do it sober.
Yeah.
There's complete opposites.
Yeah.
But we got it on St. Patrick's Day, so we're gonna get them nice and liquored up.
Oh yeah. Well, that should be
421.
Oh yeah.
Stoners are gonna have to get high 2 days in a row.
Uh-huh.
What are they gonna do?
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Ben. Always been a fan. But yeah, hit that subscribe button, guys, and we will see you next week.
Funny friends, my boy.